Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive deep into the physics that, believe it or not, connects just about everything in our universe, and that's the science of waves. You know, from the light we see to the sounds we hear, it all boils down to energy on the move.
It's a pretty cool question, right? I mean, on the surface, they seem like they couldn't be more different. But here's the secret. They're all playing by the same elegant rules. The answer is that they're all just forms of energy, traveling as waves.
So, to kick things off, we have to ask the most fundamental question of all. What in the world is a wave? Well, at its heart, a wave is really just energy taking a trip from one place to another.
Okay, so the official definition is a disturbance from an equilibrium position. Think about it like this. Picture a perfectly calm lake. That's its equilibrium. A wave is just a little jiggle, a vibration that decides to go for a walk, moving through that space over time.
Now this right here is the absolute key. You have to get this part. The ripple itself zips across the pond, but the water molecules, they're not going anywhere. They mostly just bob up and down in place. Imagine a rubber ducky on that pond. It would just go up and down. It wouldn't get carried all the way to the other shore. So what's the takeaway? Waves transfer energy, not matter.
All right, so now that we know what a wave is, it turns out there are two main ways they can, well, wave. And it all comes down to the direction of that initial jiggle.
For the first one, imagine you're holding a long rope. If you flick your wrist up and down, you'll see that classic wave shape travel all the way down the rope, right? That is our first type, a transverse wave.
The magic word here is perpendicular. Think about it. Your hand moved up and down, but the wave itself traveled forward, away from you. That perfect 90-degree angle between the vibration and the direction of travel is what makes it a transverse wave. This gives us those familiar high points we call crests and the low points called troughs. And get this, all light, from the sunshine to the glow of your phone screen, travels just like this.
Okay, now for the second type. Ditch the rope and grab a slinky. But instead of shaking it up and down, imagine pushing and pulling it, like an accordion. You'd see these little bunches of coils shoot down its length.
So for this one, the key word is parallel. The little push-pull vibration is happening in the exact same direction that the energy is traveling. And instead of crests and troughs, you get these squeezed-together parts, we call those compressions, and stretched-out parts, called rarefactions. And that, right there, is exactly how sound works. It's a pressure wave moving through the air.
So let's just put them side by side real quick. At the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Perpendicular vibration for transverse waves, like light, and parallel vibration for longitudinal waves, like sound. Just two different ways of doing the same job, moving energy.
So we've pretty much been talking about waves that are on the go, right? The waves we see every day, like ripples or sound, are always traveling outward from whatever made them. Well, in physics, these travelers have a special name. We call them progressive waves.
And this definition pretty much nails it. A progressive wave is a traveler. It's got a one-way ticket, it keeps moving in the same direction, and if we ignore things like friction, its height, or what we call its amplitude, stays the same the whole trip.
Now whoa, don't let the math scare you off. This equation is really just a super condensed way of telling a wave's life story. That A just tells you how tall the wave is, its amplitude. The Y tells you where any single little particle is at any given moment. And that whole bit at the end with the sine function, that's the engine. That's the part that makes it a repeating, moving wave, describing its journey through both space and time.
So let's just recap what all progressive waves have in common. 1, every particle in the path of the wave gets in on the action and starts vibrating. 2, the wave itself is moving forward at a specific speed, carrying energy. And 3, and this is crucial, each particle is just a little bit out of sync with its neighbor. It's kind of like a stadium wave. That slight delay is what gives us that amazing sense of forward motion.
Okay, so far, waves are travelers, always on the move. But what happens when they run into each other? This is where things get really cool, and we get a totally different beast, the stationary wave.
So this is the big question, isn't it? We've been saying waves always travel. But what if you have two perfectly identical waves, say on a rope, one heading left and one heading right? On a collision course, what happens when they meet in the middle?
They don't just smash into each other and disappear. Instead, they interfere. They add up in some places and cancel each other out in others. And the result is this beautiful, almost magical pattern that looks like it's just vibrating in place. It's not actually standing still. The energy is still there, sloshing back and forth. But it isn't traveling anywhere.
A stationary wave has some really obvious features. You get these points called nodes that don't move at all. They have zero amplitude. And then, in between the nodes, you have points called antinodes, where the vibration is at its absolute maximum. The perfect example? A guitar string. When you pluck it, it forms a stationary wave, with nodes at either end where it's held down.
So when you put them side by side, the biggest difference really comes down to one thing: energy. A progressive wave is like a delivery truck carrying energy from point A to point B. But a stationary wave, it's more like a storage unit. It traps that energy, containing it right there between the nodes. This difference, a wave that travels versus one that stands still, is what separates a ripple in a pond from the beautiful note played on a guitar.
So from a simple ripple in a pond to the complex standing wave on a string, we've seen how energy moves around our world. But this is really just scratching the surface. These exact same principles of interference and resonance explain everything from how your microwave heats up your lunch, to why a bridge can sometimes catastrophically collapse in the wind, and even to how atoms themselves are structured. The universe, as it turns out, is absolutely humming with waves.